Welcome to our second vlog series on scaling execution. The rules of the game change when you move from startup to scale up, and so this vlog series is there to empower you as founding teams to get execution right at scale when you get beyond 10 or 20 people. So what we're going to cover in this vlog is, firstly, what is the challenge of execution? Why is it so hard? And secondly, what are the golden rules to get execution right? Because your organization needs to fundamentally reinvent itself when you move past the startup stage. When you're a startup, the core nature of your team's culture and your day-to-day goals are experimentation and finding. When you scale beyond 10 or 20 people and you have a business model and you're now building a company to execute on that scale, you're growing sales, you're hiring more and more people, the core nature of your culture needs to shift fundamentally. You actually need to transition as a company from experimentation to execution, from finding to actually building infrastructure, scale, across all parts of the business. So what we're going to cover in this blog is the 8 core disciplines of execution. We're just going to cover each one of them in a really tiny nutshell. And then in the rest of the blog series, we're going to give you the practical tools to execute on these disciplines, specifically in a scale-up context. So the first core discipline of execution is to focus on the wildly important. Now, the reason for this is because the reality is your organization will not execute if you take on too much. If you spread too thinly, you'll get nothing done. Rather focus on a small number of the really critical things and actually execute. The second core driver is to make it really clear who's responsible for what. As a startup team, you can agree around the coffee table every day who's responsible for what tasks. As you scale beyond startup, you actually need a more systematic way of keeping people aligned without meeting around the coffee table every day, because the reality is you no longer do. When you're at 33 people, you can't keep a long task list that everybody's familiar with. So you need to codify each person's role in terms of their top 3 results they need to deliver in the next 90 days. So definition of the mission of their role plus their top 3 responsibilities. And once you've got that, you've got the basis for everyone in the company to be clear on what they're responsible for so that they can self-direct their focus every day and week. The third core discipline of execution may sound counterintuitive, but it's really important. That is to separate management of execution on the business of today from management of execution of the business of tomorrow. The business of today you manage through standard operations management practices. Managing execution on the business of tomorrow is managing things that are important, but they don't shout loud, so they get lost in the whirlwind. The business of today, execution of that almost takes care of itself by virtue of the phone calls that come in, the emails that come in, the team members that shout loud. And so your attention tends to be concentrated on the critical things to keep the business of today running as it is. But to change the game, to take the business from where it is to the mountaintop, you need to be focused on the activities that will get you to the mountaintop, even though nobody is shouting loud. And that's why these two things need to be separated. When you're talking about executing on the business of tomorrow, there can be no hint of the whirlwind in those conversations. Otherwise, the long-term focus and priorities will just get lost in the whirlwind. The fourth core discipline of getting execution right at scale is to help your team to focus and act on the lead measures. The reality is most targets are by nature lag measures. So in other words, when you see the results, it's too late. The results have come and gone. It's too late to influence them. It's too late to get the outcomes. So you actually need to focus in advance on being proactive about getting the right results by focusing on those activities and indicators that tell you whether or not you're on track to win and achieve the targets. So those are called lead activities and lead indicators. And you want your team focused on those, watching what's happening to the needle on the long-term goals that are the real targets, but focused on acting on the lead measures to influence the ultimate goals. The fifth core discipline of execution is to keep a compelling scoreboard. This is about keeping your team engaged. If your team can see how they're doing and whether or not they're winning, they're engaged. If your team can't see how we're doing and whether or not we're winning, they're disengaging. Business is a lot like a game, and in a game you need to know how you're doing. You need to know whether or not you're winning and what you need to do to move from not winning to winning. So keep a compelling scoreboard that tells the players in the game whether or not they're winning. Make it visible all the time, everywhere, to everybody. The sixth core discipline of execution is to maintain a rhythm of accountability. So maintaining a rhythm of accountability is about getting together as a team and talking about three things. Number one, did we deliver on our commitments? Did we do what we said we were going to do? Number two, are we getting the results that we set out to achieve? So are we winning? Number three, what must we do to course correct and to win? So if we're not winning, let's troubleshoot, figure out what we can do to influence the results. Let's make commitments to what we're going to do, and then let's get out there and do it. So that's the cadence of accountability. It's a daily or weekly get-together of team members to make commitments to each other around what we're going to do to make sure that we win. The seventh core discipline is actually for the leadership team, and this is to coach your team towards maximum contribution. You don't actually want to coach your team to win. It sounds counterintuitive. You want the team to win, but you actually don't want them to be focused on winning as the be-all and the end-all. Really, the key thing is, are we making our maximum contribution towards the team winning? That's the level at which the team can remain maximally motivated, because the focus is not on things outside of their control, it's on things inside of their control. The focus is also not on themselves, it's on the outcomes for the team, what matters to us as a collective. And so if you keep each individual focused on the maximum potential personal contribution, you empower them to do everything possible to set the team up to win. And counterintuitively, this is the best way to get the team to win. The last and eighth of the core disciplines of execution is to share the spoils. This is about giving everybody skin in the game, making sure that everybody feels like if we win, we get fairly rewarded for our contribution. So those are the 8 core disciplines of execution. This introduction is at quite a high level. So what we're going to do in the rest of this blog series is take those 8 disciplines and unpack them into a range of individual tools which you can put to work sequentially, linearly, one by one, and we'll talk you through how to use those tools to get execution right in a scale-up context. So thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time.